Your parents pay all your expenses, you don't need to work. So you have a lot of spare time, you can read. But in Europe, the poor guys have to work to make money and then go to work. So still they are very good. So it means you spend your time in some other area rather than this. Please study, because whatever you read here, whatever you learn here, you're going to use it in the rest of your life. If you miss these 5-6 years, you miss the rest of your life in trouble. I can tell you that. Okay? So promise to study as much as you can. So my name is Mustafa Maikoma, and if you want to know more, you can Google it and you can find out what I have done in the past. Okay, back to the students. All the students have to be in the class at most 10 minutes after the lecture started, because if you came late, I might not let you in, because the introduction of the class is very important. The class has to be quiet when I talk. And the other stuff you have to follow. All the students receive warning. If you miss 20% of the classes, you receive warning. And if you miss more than 25, you are not allowed to participate in the classes. And there will be learning objective for each lecture, and there will be roughly midterm, and you have two exams, midterm and final. The midterm roughly is going to be 40. It depends how much we lecture you. Roughly about 40 or 35, depends the amount of the lecture you do in the first semester. And the rest goes for the 45 goes for the final. And there are 15 points for students' activity, including 10 points for the presentation, and 5 points for behavior and attendance and others. Let's see what else I have to say. Yeah, the reference, as I say, it's a basic immunology from Abu Abbas. You know, it's a small book, it's a fourth edition. You can buy it in the bookshop, it's available. And in my lecture, I give you the summaries of these as a note. So who's the leader of the class? So what we can do, I don't know how many students are in the class. 150. Mashallah. Really. So 150 divided to 10, how much is it going to be? 50. Okay. So what you're going to do, you divide the students in equal 7 or 8 person per group. So you have 10 people, including 7 person, and 10 group, including 8 person. You understand? So you have, how many groups you have? You have 30 group, 15, you have 20 group, 10 is the 7 person per group, 10 is 8 person. Group it and give this number, these people, to my office next week sometimes when we are ready. Because in the next time, the first group have to present the lecture that I'm going to deliver to you. So the lecture I'm going to deliver to you, the first group, the first 2 are responsible to present it to the class. I'll tell you how to do it later, okay? So you classify it and don't change it after that, because whoever is going to be the group, they are not going to be changed. They have to be with the group all the time. The aim of this is collaboration. It teaches you how to collaborate to finish one job. That is very important for your future job, because collaboration by yourself you can do nothing. Because you know, one hand never make noise. At least you need 2 hands to make a noise. And if you have more hands, the noise is more high. So it's better to have a good collaboration, to work together. So the aim of these is to prepare you how to collaborate. So the collaboration is like that. For example, the first group, you can choose part of the lecture, because the lecture is going to last about 1.5 hours. So obviously you cannot deliver all of them, because your lecture time is about 7 minutes. You have to finish on 7 minutes. The lecture have to be 6 to 7 minutes, not more, not less, not more, because the time precision is very important. You should be able to deliver your knowledge in a short time. I can remember one time when I was a PhD student, there was a Nobel Prize winner to come to our department. We have a poster presentation, and finally the head of the department come to my poster and said, Musa, you have to have 1 minute to explain this guy what you have done. So I have to explain 3 years' work in 1 minute. So shorten of the time. And the amount of the subject you're going to deliver is very important. It is a time management. They call it time management. How much time you have and how much you can use perfectly. So these are very important for your future job actually. Because if you are not able to sell yourself, nobody can recognize you. So the only way to sell yourself, you have to be able transfer it to others. If you cannot transfer it to others, nobody can realize who you are. So that training, we take it very seriously. And we try, if you have a mistake, you have a problem, we try to sort it out as much as we can. Okay, the presentation, as I said, is 7 minutes, 6 to 7 minutes sharp. Follow 3 minutes question, and then we ask question to the audience. So the audience are responsible to respond to the question. And what you should not to do not copy the lecture slide. Whatever the slide you put it here, don't use it. Because if you use it, you lose point. You have to find a slide about your story in Google, in different books, in whatever. There is a lot of slides and lecture in Google. If you put it, there's a lot of options. Or there is a lot of books, you can use different books, and different books have different type of presentation. So it means that I want to push you guys to go to read more and read the paper. Because what we're going to do here, we are not going to teach you all immunology, because immunology is beyond your subject, so you don't need to know all of them. But these lectures give you able to read the immunology book when you finish it. So when you finish this book properly, you can understand immunology by yourself. So the self-learning, that's why I'm coming to self-learning. The self-learning is very important. If you want to be important, you have to rely to yourself rather than me or others. We just need to teach you, to guide you how to improve yourself. And if you want to be a good person and have a very prospective job in the future, self-learning is very important. You have to rely on yourself. Go with your curiosity. Follow your curiosity. Those people who follow their curiosity, they are much successful than the other. For example, the best example is Bill Gates, for example. He went to university after 3 years to find out it's rubbish. He just left the university. And you know who we are, who he is at the moment, and what he achieved. Or another good example is Einstein, actually. It's the same thing. So these people believe themselves. How they believe it? By learning more. The more you learn, the more you rely to yourself rather than others. That is very important, self-learning. And the notes should not be short. Okay, don't write the subject on the slide. You see my slide. What I write is very short. You cannot put the text on the your presentation, and then come and read it. No. If you want to put the text on the slide to read it, everybody can. So you don't need me. So what you need, I have to present. I have to be. You have to follow me. But if I put all the subject as a sentence on the slides, you go read it and don't listen. And it's going to be very boring. But if you put a short note in the slides, everybody watching what you're going to say next. That is the key. Why you should not do this. Your slide preparation, of course, is very important. How you build the story, it's very important. And describing the subject, you have to describe the subject you choose, the title you choose. You have to describe it very well, because the subject you use is very important, and what you deliver have to match with the slide, the title. If the contents is not going to cover the title you have, it's not a good lecture. And you have to know whatever you're saying, because I noticed in the previous years, the students come and lecture, blah, 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 and write a lot of stuff here. And when I ask the question, what does it mean? They don't know. So what's the point of presenting? You have to understand. You are responsible for each word you put in on the slide. So I will ask you a question. If I find out you don't understand that, well, I'll catch you. Years, but I have 25 years experience teaching the students in university of Glasgow. So I know you very well. I can find the fluctuation of the word you're using. I can understand if you don't understand. So you have to understand each individual word you're saying. Okay? That is very good to get the full point. It's actually, in my side, the full point is not important. The more you learn, it's more important to me than the point. I don't care how much you get extra money. But it is very important for me you understand and improve your ability. That is very important. So please take it seriously, okay? Yeah, that's it. So if you have any question, I will be pleased to answer, and that will go to the next. So if you have any question, and also if you have problem with preparation of this slide, or you cannot link it, or whatever, come to my office. I'll tell you, okay? Or to Imad or other people who are there to help you. So we are there to help you, but you are responsible to deliver properly. We are serious about that. We can support you as much as you want, but we expect you to deliver the lecture and everything. Okay? Please do it. It's not me. You have to have it when I was in your age. I was spending rarely 10, 12 hours studying. Okay, the lecture. It is the title of the lecture. So you have introduction, you have keep you as much as I can, and then you have the native unit, and then complement, antigen and antibody, and you see antigen presentation. These 5 lectures, from 2 to 4, from 2 to 4 are not common. Possibly Dr. Imad or Dr. Talat. These 4 lectures, the first 5 lectures as I mentioned, it is very important. It is very important because if you don't understand it, you'll be in trouble in the last 5 lectures that I'm going to give. And if you don't understand the first 4 or 5, the lecture I'm giving to you, you get boring because you cannot understand it. Because the subject, acquired immunity, is much interesting. It's much actually easier than the first one, if you learn the first one. If you don't learn the first one, the last 5 lectures will be boring and very hard. So please read the first lecture there. And the last one is actually the presentation for those people who still doesn't believe in business. So the learning objective, as I said, all the lecture have a learning objective. Just these are very important. We cover Okay. Now, the immunology. The immunology is just is talking about self and non-self. Differentiation of the self and non-self is immunology. What is the self? Self is all the chemical component of your body. Whatever in your body have chemical structure, protein, lipid, whatever, it is self. If any chemical or anything is against, it doesn't match with your own, it is not self. So the immunology is confrontation of the non-self because they recognize the self and react against the non-self. It is the immunology. So if you look at around your life, you can see a lot of stuff exists in the world which is not self, like a bacteria, like a parasite, even some metals and drug, and a lot of things. The structure and component of the see, that's why I say when somebody come, they interrupt my talk. Yeah. So even drug, the structure of the drug is not matched to yours. That's why sometimes some people recognize it as a non-self and respond. You have heard that people have an allergy to aspirin. Is an example. So they have a very severe reaction to aspirin or penicillin or other stuff. So sometimes some people recognize some chemical or some drug as a non-self reaction. Why they do it? You have to go to understand the immunology data which I give you, and then in the end you should be able to understand what I'm saying today. So today is just the introduction. Next time comes to that day. So the immune response is include 3 steps. First is the barrier. Your skin, mucus, and your mouth. This is the first barrier. It can be physical, biological, or chemical. So they will explain to you what are. And then after that, if the pathogen or any chemical pass these barriers, they confront with innate immunity. And after that, the acquired immunity eliminate the pathogen. It is the whole story. So they started from the passing from the barrier, innate immunity, and then acquired. And the acquired immunity is the hammer, just kill all. So if the acquired immunity is failed, the person will be in trouble. You can stop me anytime. When you don't understand subject, just stop me anytime. Raise your hand. I'll explain you further. I hope everybody understands and hear me very well. The adaptive immunity or acquired immunity is either active or passive. When we say it's the active acquired immunity, it means your own body develops this resistance. For example, if you get sick in one time, you get immunity for the next time. So they call it you have active immunity. So your body confronted first, the first time, and the second time learn how to confront. So you have active immunity. The passive immunity is coming from other person to you. In some diseases, you might know that the adaptive immunity are not able to eliminate the pathogen for the first time. They need help. Like in diphtheria. For those people who get a diphtheria, since the diphtheria produce toxin, and when they produce toxin, this first state of immunity cannot help them because they can escape very easily. They need adaptive immunity to respond. Since it takes time, this develop, the toxin of diphtheria will kill the patient. So what you do in these cases, you inject serum. You inject serum of the horse or from some other, but usually it's worse, that in the serum cohorts there is an antibody against toxin of the diphtheria. So you receive the immunity in the passive form. That's called passive. Your own body didn't develop that immunity, but it received it from somebody else. Is it clear?
Yeah.
What makes difference between innate immunity and adaptive immunity? Is the receptor cells have. So you have to be very careful, especially in the last 5 lectures that I'm going to tell. The cell receptor is very important. The immune cells, they talk to each other. The way they talk is through the interaction of the receptor. One cell have one receptor, the other one another. When they come together, they talk and give a signal. When they give a signal, the cell receives the signal, nobody. So one way the cell talk is through the receptor and the interaction. So we call one receptor or one cell is the key, and the another one is the lock. Always this key can open just one lock. We will see it later because we will talk about it very much. So interaction of the receptor is very important for induction of the immune response. The another way is some cells produce protein from other places, and the protein goes and hit the cells which go to respond. So still they have to have a receptor for these proteins. So there is 2 ways. The immune cells can talk with each other. One, interaction of the receptor. Second is production of the protein. We call it cytokine. They produce protein we call cytokine. The cytokine is the overlap. So they talk 2 ways. I can, for example, in normal life, when you have see your friend want to pass a message, shake hands, say, "Oh, right, mom, you have to do this and this." So it's an interaction. The another way, you are not able to see personally to your friend. What you do, you write a letter and send it to someone there. Then the guy read it or what. So exactly, the immune cells talk to each other like that. So they use interaction or cytokine. Exactly. There is a huge difference between the innate immunity and acquired. The innate immunity, as you can see here in this picture, is similar to everyone. All of you guys have similar response to pathogen in the term of the innate immunity. The innate immunity of you guys are almost similar, unless if you have a deficiency in some part. If you don't have a deficiency, there is similarity of response. Why? Because all these guys and you have the same receptor to do the function. So they receive the same signal. They receive the same signal. The signal you're receiving is the same in everyone. Why? Because this receptor is coming from the heart gene. I mean, the gene is already existing in the cells. So since the gene is there, it's rearranged, so they express. When they express, they have the same function. But in adaptive immunity, it is not that. The gene is not fixed together. It is just baseline. Like a logo, when you was a child, they give you some toys. They give you okay to play. You match it to each other. You can make a car, you can make an airplane, you can make a house or ship, whatever. Yeah, you have seen that here. The baseline gene is exactly like that. It's not fixed together. It's not white core like innate immunity. So it is just a mixture of some amino acid. So it depends how these amino acid is binding together. The response is going to be different. That's why the response of the John and Mary over you and you are different from each other. It depends how these genes are starting to rearrange and make this receptor. So the form of the receptor expressed shows the type of the response you have. That's why the innate immunity in everyone is identical, but it is different in adaptive immunity. Adaptive immunity of each individual is different based on what? Rearrangement of those immune aspects. Why? Because it is in baseline. It's not wild code. Okay? We'll tell you more about that in lecture 5 or 6. But do remember what I'm saying at the moment, and then I'll explain you why. It is happening like that. Yeah.
So the differences between innate immune system and adaptive immune system is that one is fixed and one is not.
Yeah, that's right. It is fixed. That's why everybody have similar receptor. When they have a similar receptor, the response to it is because these receptors can receive one signal. So since these receptor is in everyone, so they receive the same signal. But since these receptors are different from each other, so the signal they receive is different. I'll explain to you later very well. So the difference between innate immunity and adaptive immunity are different because the type of the receptor they have. This receptor they have in innate immunity is completely identical. But since the receptor on the adaptive immunity cells is not identical, so the response are different. Innate immunity cells like neutrophil, macrophage, and eosinophil, monocyte, these are natural killer cells. These are innate immune cells. They have similar receptors. But adaptive immunity have two important cells, B cells and T cells. So the B cell and T cells have a specific response because they have different receptors in different individuals. Okay? So the difference between innate immunity and adaptive immunity is based on the type of the receptor they have. So the receptor on the innate immunity is identical, but in adaptive immunity is not. That's why the response is different. So we give you the detail in the next lectures because today it's just introduction because we're going to tell you what we're going to cover. So we will detail each subject one by one very. So if you have a little bit doubt about understanding or something, don't worry. As far as you understand the image, that's fine. If you don't understand the detail, don't worry, because we give you detail later. I hope your English is very good. Can you understand the way I talk? If I talk fast, tell me you're talking fast, and I can talk. Okay, the immune tissue. We have two types of immune tissue. They call it primary or generative immune tissue or central tissue, and then we have secondary inflammatory tissue. The central, or the first one, generative, the function is clear. Generative, what does it mean? They generate, they produce the immune cells. So all the immune cells is produced in the generative tissue, immune tissue. So the primary immune tissue are responsible for generation, for production of immune cells, and when they produce, they come to the secondary inflammatory tissue. So the first tissue is responsible for generation, the second is responsible to respond. But they produce in the primary immune tissue, when they produce, they come to secondary immune tissue. When they come to secondary immune tissue, they can confront the antigen and respond. So the first one is production. The second tissue is the induction of the immune response. What are these? So the main central tissue is the bone marrow. The bursa, there is another organ and bird, we call it bursa, that's where the B cells come from. So the bursa is just in the bird, but in human, the only bone marrow are the central tissue. So what the bone marrow do? bone marrow produce all the immune cells. When they produce the immune cells, they go to the secondary immune tissue, which is the spleen, lymph node. So they produce it, and then they go in here. When they go inside these secondary lymph tissue, they can respond to any pathogen. Okay.
What do they produce?
Pardon?
What do they produce?
What do they produce? They produce immune cells. Now they're producing T cell, B cell, neutrophil, macrophage, all these immune cells.
White blood cells include?
Pardon?
The white blood cells.
Yeah, all the white blood cells are immune cells. The white blood cells, all of them are immune cells. Maybe I should, let me see. Okay, there is the I'll explain. So the picture you see here, this is the bone marrow. So the bone marrow is produce the cells. When they produce, they go to the lymph node and the spleen and lymph node. So here, our response to antigen is producing the immune cell. That is the structure of the lymph node. And you can see there is different part. There's follicle. The B cell usually stay here, and this area is the T cell area. Just the structure of the lymph node will give you the function of these later. So this is the immune cells. The immune response is the collaboration between non-immune cells, like fibroblasts, like epithelial cells, with the immune cell. Collaboration between these and the two immune cells. So the immune cells, including monocyte, lymphocyte, eosinophil, neutrophil, mast cell or basophil, and dendritic cell. This is immune cell.
Doctor, can you raise your voice? I can't hear you.
Yeah, right. Yeah, maybe then I talk to the blackboard.
The last one, doctor, what is it?
This one, dendritic cell, dendritic cell. So, as I say, the
Primary reduce the immune system. Okay.
sorry, I can't hear you.
Okay. The primary to reduce the immune cells.
Yeah, they produce all these cells.
What's the function of the secondary?
The secondary, when these cells produce in primary, they leave the bone marrow because they are produced, they are mature. So when they mature, they leave the bone marrow. They don't stay in the bone marrow. They leave, they go where? To lymph node and spleen.
Like a storage for storage.
No, it's not the storage. Because in the bone marrow, there is a one mother cell. I'll tell you later in my next lecture. There is one mother cell. All these cells originated from those. So always the bone marrow is producing. There is not storage there. They're producing, when they become completed or completed, they leave the bone marrow. When they leave the bone marrow, they go to the secondary. Because when they go to the secondary immune tissue, it means they are capable to respond to antigen. Because when they are in the bone marrow, they are not able to do so. When they are ability to respond to the antigen, they leave bone marrow. They go to the lymph node and the spleen. So when they go to the spleen, they know they have to know antigen. I will tell you how they do it. So the collaboration between these is we call it the immune response. So when the antigen or other so I give you anthrax fresh, but you make a lot of noise. And some of the class is empty. I cannot see that happening other times. So if it's the first time, I ignore it. But the next time, I ignore that. Because if I find out who's leaving, you'll be in a big trouble. Because I can give you the lecture as much as I can. I try my best to make it understandable. But at the same time, you have to follow the rule. I'm really restricted to the rule. I'm friend with you, I laugh with you, I talk with you, even if you want to play a game, I come play with you, it doesn't matter. But when you are in the class, you are the students and the teacher. Do remember that. But in the rest of the day, when we finish, it's finished, you are friends. So you have to follow the rule, you have to have a discipline. That is the rule. I'm not going to ignore anything, because I'm very restricted to the rule. Because I've grown up like that. Okay, so what is the rule of the immune response? The rule of it is defense against the infection. So they protect you against the infection. But if there is sometimes there is a deficiency in the function of each immune cell, you will have the problem. So the immune system cannot do the job, cannot defend you properly. These deficiencies sometimes it is inherited most of the time, and sometimes can be acquired, like a HIV infection. What the HIV infection do, they paralyze the immune system. They kill the most important cells in the system and make your body like a meat. So your body is like a meat, there is a lot of infection around. So the patient will die with multiple diseases, cancer, and other stuff. So the immune system is going to protect you. If they fail, they have a problem. How can we improve it? By vaccination. So by vaccination, we can improve the protection of the immune system. So I told you, the first time when you become sick, when you confronted the pathogen the first time, you become sick. But the second time, you learn how to confront it. But if you have a vaccination, you don't have exposure because the vaccination in the first infection. And they have some problem for the people as well. For example, one of the problems we make is they make problem in the transplantation. Because if you have to transplant one organ to another person, it is the responsibility of the immune cell that reject the transplantation. So it is a disadvantage. But also they have some advantage because you can treat a lot of cancer by immunotherapy. I said one of them is defense against infection, and the vaccination is a good example of it because it boosts the immune system. If you look at these diseases, or smallpox, which is eliminated at the moment because of the vaccination, by doing the vaccination properly in the worldwide, so the smallpox is eliminated. And if you look at all these diseases like diphtheria, measles, mumps, everything, it is the time it started vaccination. So you can see the number of the cases in 2004 dropped. It is the number of the disease that started from the time of the vaccination. This is the number of the disease for the 2004. So by doing the vaccination, we can boost the immune system to confront all these diseases. But some of the diseases is not as good as others. Because these pathogens, sometimes they have a carrier. The carrier means the person have the pathogen, but they don't have any symptoms. So easily they can transfer from one to another. So that's why it is the problem in some of the infection, because they have a carrier. When they have a carrier, it is difficult to confront. Because you have the pathogen, you don't know you have it. They easily can transfer from one to another. Okay, what is happening in the immune response? Because in the immune response, we told you it is the barrier first, and then it is the innate immune response. If you look at here, it is the barrier. So if the pathogen passed from the barrier, it is the innate immune cells are responsible. For example, neutrophil, monocyte or macrophage, dendritic cells, and NK cells. It is the example of innate immune cells. So they come from it. What they do, they eliminate it, they kill it as much as they can. But the job is not very important because they cannot do the job very. Or another protein which is important for elimination is the complement, is the protein. So these elements kill the pathogen as much as they can. The job is started very quickly, after 6 hours of infection, in 12 hours. Very quickly they start. One of the advantages of the innate immune system is they start very quickly. But the job is not very efficient. It cannot kill very well. And after that, it says the adaptive immunity will start. You can see, take by delay, take 5 days, 1, 3, and 5 days. 5 days. After 5 days, adaptive immunity are responsible. They become responsible to part of the education. Before 5 days, they cannot, because they have to acquire, they have to learn how to do it. Because these cells, they knew it. The receptor is there, they knew it, what to do, they didn't know. But the adaptive immunity doesn't acquire, they need to learn. That's why they take time. In the passive immunity, we told you, for example, diphtheria is exactly like that. Because the diphtheria, they kill you by the toxin. And these cells cannot do anything about the toxin. They don't learn how to do it. So they cannot do anything. So it takes 5 days. During these 5 days, the patient will die. So to prevent that, that's why we have passive immunity. Transfer the antibody, which is going to produce in 5 days, you give it in the same day that they diagnose it. That's it. If you don't do it, it will take 5 days, innate immunity. Adaptive immunity system will do it. So one of the difference, the big difference of the innate immunity and the adaptive is responding very quickly, but the adaptive response is starting late. So first they have to recognize the antigen, then they recognize that they increase their numbers to be able to confront it, and then they produce either antibody by the B cell or they produce cytokine by the B cells. So the production of the cytokine and antibody by the B cells and the T cells take time. So that's what we do. It delays the function, it delays the infection, and give enough time to adaptive immunity to develop. When the adaptive immunity develops, finally they kill the pathogen. Adaptive immunity is two types. Either we call it humoral immunity or we call it cell-mediated. This type of immunity based on the structure of the pathogen. What kind of pathogen? If the pathogen is extracellular, I mean they don't go inside the cells. They are in the body but not inside the cell. It is in the blood or in the tissue, but not in the cell. If it is extra bacteria, like pneumococcus, like staphylococcus, I don't know how much you know about the bacteria, it is extracellular. So this type of the extracellular bacteria, the B cell recognized, or the toxin. The toxin is recognized by the B cell. So all the extracellular bacteria, the B cell is response to confrontation. What the B cells do? They produce antibody. So they produce antibody and the antibody are the. So if the extra bacteria, the B cell or production of antibody, they kill and block. They call it humoral. But if the bacteria is intracellular, it goes inside the cells. But here it doesn't. Here the bacteria goes inside the cell, like tuberculosis, like lupra, to some. It goes inside the cell. Bacteria goes inside the immune cell. Or they infect your epithelial cell, like a virus. No, yeah, they are more dangerous than the first one. Yes. So, yeah, and then, so if it goes inside the cell, we call it cell immune mediated immune response. So if the immune cell is infected, one of the cells, we call it helper cell. They produce protein and help these cells to be. But this type of help never kills the infected cell. The infected cell is still alive. So for example here, the macrophage, they take the pathogen, but they cannot keep it. But in the function, previously here, I show you, the function is detected, they do extracellular, they take it and kill it. But in some of the cells, like tuberculosis, they cannot, because the structure of the cell wall, bacteria, they cannot do it. So the bacteria resist inside the immune cell. In this case, these helper T cells come help the infected cell and help them to kill them. But they kill the pathogen, but not the cell. But in virus, when the epithelial cell is infected, yeah, another cell, we call it cytotoxic cell, they come to help them. But how they kill the cells, everything together. So the difference to work of the helper T cell and cytotoxic. Cytotoxic T cell kill everything, the cells including the pathogen, but the helper T cell just kill the pathogen. One of the properties of the adaptive immune response is specificity. What I told you, for generation of the receptor, it depends how you make it. So it depends how these baseline genes bind together. So it depends, the type of the receptor is different from one to another. So we have different cells. So we have different B cells, different T cells, have a different receptor. So since they have a different receptor, it means they can recognize different antigens. So each B cell can only recognize one antigen. Why? Based on the structure of the receptor, how they bind together. How they bind to produce the receptor, they make them able to just recognize one antigen. So one cell, one antigen. That's why it is specificity. Because it is specific. These cells is the source to one pathogen. It is specific to one antigen. In one B cell or one T cell, just only can recognize tuberculosis. Nothing, not one. Another one can recognize the staph. Another one can recognize another pathogen. You know, each cell, one, one pathogen. That is specificity. Since they are specific for each one, that's why they have diversity. So they can confront different pathogens as much as you exist in the world. It is diverse. Why they are diverse? Because they have a specificity. Why they have a specificity? Because they have a specific receptor. Coronal expansion. So we say there is a specific one pathogen, one cell. So one cell is not enough to kill them. What they do, if they confront with the pathogen, they increase the number first. They increase the number of the type of the cells which is the number. So when they increase the number, they produce lots of pathogen. So the first is clonal expansion. Clonal expansion means these cells, which we call it clone, can recognize these antigens. When they confront the antigen, they increase the number to be able to kill. Because the number in the beginning is very low. So first they increase to be able to produce a lot of antibody to kill. As you look at the structure of these receptors, you can see the shape is different. That is the specificity. each cell have different type of receptor, and each of them just can recognize one antigen. These cells only can match with the antigen X. They cannot recognize antigen Y. And this one can recognize Y, and this cannot recognize it because it doesn't match. This is the specificity. That's why they give the diversity. And when they recognize it, they increase it. Another function of is induction of the immune system. So when the B cell and T cell recognize the antigen, they have a clonal expansion, they increase it, and then they differentiate. They change their shape. Who asked me that? They change their shape. They change their function. They are not looks like these cells anymore. So when they change their shape, differentiate to these cells, they produce antibody, and these cells produce protein, cytokine. And these are responsible to eliminate, to kill the pathogen, and these cells become silent and stay silent for the next time. If the next time this person will become infected with the same pathogen, they react very quickly. I'll show you how. Because they had how to deal with this. Because in the beginning, it doesn't know, it needs 5 days to learn. These cells know how to deal with this. Okay. You can see it here. So, a specification. So, in the same picture, we show it different clone, different antigen, different antigen, they increase and they produce the antibody. These antibodies only can recognize the antigen they use. That is the specification. And it is very important for diagnosis. For example, a lot of diseases, clinical symptom is the same. When the patient goes, you don't know which one, what kind of infection they have. For example, typhoid and brucellosis. They have the similar function. You don't know if it's either have a brucellosis or typhoid. What you do, you say, please, the lab, please do the experiment without or brucellosis. So what we do, we take a serum of the patient and confront with the different antigen. Since each antibody can just recognize the antigen produced, if they match, they have a reaction. So when we add the serum to the antigen, if they react, I would say, we know the antigen. That's why we can tell is it either typhoid or subtyphoid diseases or brucellosis, whatever. And then we work down what kind of infection. Why? Because the specification. When you produce antibody, the antibody only can eliminate the pathogen just induce it. Okay? They're not shed changes. What do you mean? Because that is, you are not going to say, you have to tell me what you mean by shed change. Because it's a very important word. Yeah, the same disease, they have different antibodies. Yeah. I can tell you a little bit here about detail in the last lecture. I'll give you just a little bit, maybe next slide. It's like that. Yeah, they don't change the shape. They change their function. The shape is the same because they still can recognize the same antigen, but they change the function because they want to be more efficient. So another character of the adaptive immunity is contraction and hemostasis. Contraction means, what that means? It means we mentioned that when the B cell and T cell recognize the antigen, they increase the number and then differentiate to produce the antibody. And the 5th day, here, the level of antibody increased, and on the 7 days, they become more. So in the 7 days, they give the pathogen. When you get sick, usually it says most of the time, if it is a virus infection, you say don't worry, go to sleep for 7 days. Don't give any drugs. Why? Because in the 7 days the titer antibody increase again. But if it is the bacterial infection is different. You have to give them antibiotics. Yeah, to help the immune system to do it. What the antibiotics do, they stop increasing number of the bacteria. Because the bacteria have 3 ways can make the patient sick. One, they call it by virulence. It means that the bacterium goes inside the body and are able to increase the number. Like staphylococcus, like streptococcus. They make diseases by virulence. They increase the number. So you have to give them antibiotics. Because if you don't give them the antibiotics, the immune system cannot increase. So what the antibiotics do, they stop that capability of the body. They didn't let them to increase their immune. They help the innate immune system to eliminate, give them time to kill. Or some of the pathogens, they introduce toxin. They are botulism or bacteria. You have no choice. You have to be careful. They have to see. Okay, so here they produce a lot of antibody to eliminate it. So when the pathogen is gone, there is no use to stay there. You don't need them. If they stay there, all of them, your body will be exploded by immune cells. Immune cells there. What the immune system do, they kill. After they've done the job, the effective cell, all of them will die. But the memory cell stays there. But adaptive, but the effector cells, they die by apoptosis. But the memory cell is there for the disease. We have 2 types of killing. One of them, they call it apoptosis. One of them, they call it necrosis. In the previous slide, if you look at this one, it is necrosis. They eliminate the cell wall of the cell, so it's necrosis. But if the apoptosis is completely different. Apoptosis, first they kill the nucleus. But necrosis, first they kill the cell wall, they destroy the cell wall. By apoptosis, first they kill the nucleus, and then the cells function. So there is 2 types of killing. One is the apoptosis, they call it physiological death, and then the necrosis, physical. So this is the full function of the adaptive immunity. And one of the other ones that is important is not reactive to cell. So whatever the protein, the antibody they produce, they usually do not react to your cell. But sometimes, yeah, there is cross-reactivity, and they make autoimmune diseases, which is predictable. Usually it's perfect. That is the difference between the first immune response and the second. So, in the first immune response, you can see the B cell and T cell. When they recognize the antigens, they increase the protein size. X and Y based on type of So, as you can see, the peak is very small. They produce a little bit antibody. These antibodies are GM. They call it non-GM antibody. And then they have the if the person confronted to same antigen again, a lot of things. So if you look at this one, is three differences between primary and secondary. In the primary, the antibody is IgA, but here is not IgA, IgG or something different. And the efficiency to kill the pathogen by IgG is much higher than IgG. We'll tell you later how they do it. And the other example, amount of the antibody is huge, but the most important is response very quickly to it. That's why if you reinfected the same pathogen, you didn't even realize that you get sick. Why? Because the adaptive immunity learned how to deal with it and kill it very quickly. But in the primary, they need 5 to 7 days. But in the secondary, 2 days is enough. So they can use enough antibody, more antibody, and more effective antibody. That's why before to show the symptoms to the patient, they will kill the patient. Naive B cell, naive means that doesn't have any experience. They didn't meet the antigen yet. No. It's naive means, for example, you are a naive doctor. You are not the trained. You don't have any experience. You are naive. When you finish 7 years, you are experienced. You are not naive. So naive means doesn't have any experience. It doesn't meet. It doesn't go to the class. It's naive. It just finished high school. Okay, it is the character. You can read this one. Yeah, it is the final picture. So the final picture of the immunology is this. Finally, we tell you how all this is going to happen. And it is very complicated. That's why I'm not going to go in detail. In the end, you will find out the function of all this, how they do it, and how well. Yeah, here is a picture actually, not that to show you. So we say that the collaboration is between these cells, the immune response, and there is the immune cells here on the side, eosinophil, neutrophil, mast cell. Yeah, I put it here if I have a time to explain. Since I have a time, I can explain. Then most of these cells can be differentiated by the morphology. By looking the cell in the microscope, you can find out on the side. But all these cells have a receptor. It's a lymphocyte. All this is a receptor of the cell. There is a lot of receptor protein on the cell. Some of the receptor exists all the time, but most of them come and go. Based on the function of the cells have something. They express something, when they finish the job, they release something. So some of the receptor is available on the cell surface all the time, but some of the receptor come and go. So all these receptors have receptors. So we can recognize not only by morphology, we can use the different marker for the receptor to find. In lymphocyte, they mainly include T cells, B cells, and natural killer cells. And we cannot differentiate them very easily by clinical morphology. It's impossible to recognize by that. That's why we're looking for individual receptors that these cells have. The receptor they have, we can identify different cells. They can show different function based on what kind of receptor they have. They have different function. And also, they show different migration patterns. The cells not fooling around, go everywhere. No. Wherever the cells go, they know where to go. They know what they have to do. For example, if you take in the cells from the gut of the mice and inject it to the tail of the mice, it goes exactly where it sits nowhere. There's no what to do, and the job is precisely ready. If they become a little bit failure on these ones, the person will be in trouble. When you learn, you see the complexity. You say, God, what is that? If you fails for some reason. So these receptor is identified. We can identify different cells by looking different receptor. They have different function each receptor, and also we should tell you all in detail. For example, here, if they have a marker, we call it the marker CD. We call it all these receptors. We call it CD. So to differentiate from one to another, we give them now. If they express CD3, definitely they are T cells. So if they express CD19, definitely they are T cells. If they express CD56, definitely they are natural killers. CD is the marker of the cell. You know, these receptors. They have different, every cells have different receptors. Every receptor we call it CD. So put the name more than 1,000. So you can all memorize it. That's why make it simple, they call it CD. So they can remember. For example, as I say, if somebody can be so, as I said, some of the marker is used for identification. For example, this is lymph node. This is the B cell area. You label it green. You know all these B cells. These are the T cells. Inside the lymph node. So we label these with different color, and then we can recognize which cell is. If you have any question, come to the system, the collaboration and the immune response. The immune response against the pathogen usually is protected, is safe. If you get infected with bacteria, parasite or anything, you recover. So most of the time, the collaboration and immune response is ended to protect you. It's safe. But sometimes they have overreaction or the cells cannot do the job properly for some reason. They end up doing disease. So in the first basic immunology you're going to have, we are talking about the protective function of the immunity. And here is your clinical, which you're going to be covered in the fourth year. So most of the time against the pathogen is protective, and sometimes because failure of the function of the T cell, or misdirection of the function of the cell, or overreaction, they make a problem. For example, overreaction, you get asthma or allergy response, and here maybe autoimmune diseases. Yeah, they use red blood cells. The mother of the red blood cells is negative. So yes, the red blood cells and white blood cells. And black is all these come from 1%. No, it's not in storage. They go there if they don't come from the into the type of cells. They will die in 5 days, they die in 2 weeks, so they do a form of contribution. They come there. They see the antigen. If that one is not such all the time, shape. Yes, they change shape. They change shape.
So it's the
But I cannot tell you more because if I tell you more, you will be more confused. Yes, in the beginning they are very small, but when they receive the signal changes. It depends the type of the cell. We will tell you. If I go to that area, it will be more confused. Yes.
The non-immune cells, the non-immune cells,
Yeah, they are immune cells.
non-immune.
This is not.
Yeah, are they always epithelium cells?
No, that's why I'm saying, for example, the fibroblasts, the smooth muscle cells, all the cells somehow help them all the time. Or by production of the cytokine, when they produce cytokine, they give signal to the cell. I mean, I'll tell you a little bit in the last 5 patients, a little bit, not very much. Yeah. Yes, it is.
What's an example of malfunction?
Malfunction, it means they don't do their job properly.
Now, what's an example?
Example, the B cells or T cells is supposed to come produce cytokine protein to help the other cell to work. If the T cell don't do it, it means they cannot do it. So it means that you are trained to be a doctor. I'll give you an example. You are trained to be a doctor. When you graduated, you go to the hospital. If you don't train very well here, you cannot be a good doctor. It means function, malfunction. So any cells have their rule in the immune system. So if they cannot follow their rules, malfunction. It's clear. Yeah.
Does the red marrow stop producing immune cells?
Yeah, the red bone marrow, no. The red bone marrow mainly is producing red blood cells, but not the bone. Or another kind that you have diseases is immune deficiency. So I say the collaboration between these cells induces the immune response. So if there is the immune deficiency, is any of these cells cannot do their job properly because of the deficiency they have. So you have huge problem. So if the person is healthy, these collaboration have to be completed. If there is deficiency, finally you get disease. And we'll talk about the immune deficiency in the fourth year. Okay.